We are.
Hi, Jenny.
Okay. Right. Well, welcome everyone. Let's make a start. So, welcome to this week's report out. I'm delighted to welcome the ophthalmology outpatients value stream, who've been hard at work, I know, all week on their RPIW. So, really looking forward. This is RPIW 6 on eye casualty. So, very much looking forward to the report out. And I did my best not to listen to the rehearsal. So, this will be real. So, welcome, and do you want to come forward and take the stage?
Thanks, Julian. There's quite a few of them. So, hello, my name is Helen Rollet. I am a KPO specialist, and I have had the pleasure this week to be the workshop lead for RPIW 6 in ophthalmology outpatients. The focus of our work this week has been upon eye casualty, or the acute referral service. So this is a service within the main outpatients department that sees on average between 60 and 70 patients a day. We know that there is both a planned and an unplanned workload that arrive into this department every day. And we also know that there is variability amongst the resource that we provide to provide this service. And so our focus of the week has been upon the patient. We understand the patient journey that goes through, and we have seen where there are delays in the service, as well as frustrations from the staff around working in that particular environment. And so I will hand over to the team to both explain the observations that we've done and the ideas that we've tested this week.
Hello, my name is Gerard Kelly. I'm the team lead for this RPIW. And what I'd like to show you on the screen now is our target progress report, my baseline measurements. And what I'd like to highlight is the lead time of 2 hours 43 minutes. That is the time from patient arrival in the clinic to patient leaving the clinic. The next slide shows our tact time calculation, which is 13.1 minutes, the pace of our demand. And I'd also like to tell you about our sponsor challenge. Our sponsors gave us 2 challenges. One, to reduce the length of stay to 1 hour 15 minutes. That is to reduce our lead time from patient entry in the clinic to patient leaving the clinic from what the baseline was shown over 2 hours to 1 hour 15 minutes. And secondly, to improve the time taken for the patient to first see a health professional, either a doctor or a nurse, to reduce that to 15 minutes.
Hello, I'm John Curtin. I'm a QI partner, so have been looking to ensure that the patient perspective is fully taken into account in all of the work that the RPIW has done. So I'm not going to look at all at the factors and processes in the previous weeks. I am going to take you, if you will, on a little walk, a painful walk or wait that the patient experiences. As someone with a severe sight impairment, I've been coming here for 23 years to outpatients ophthalmology. I know that pain. So if you'd just like to come along with me on this little walk. I've just found the reception. Wee bit of a queue, but that's all right. Sitting in the main area. Watch the people come and the people go. Getting a wee bit bored. Still sitting in the main area. Watching the people come and the people go. Getting a wee bit peeved. Here we go. In for the vision test. And maybe the eye drops as well. Oh, they want me to go for a retina scan. But they don't know that I've got severe nystagmus. So I have to tell them that they might not get a decent scan. Sitting again, different place. Watching the people come and the people go. hey, wait a minute, he came here hours after me. How come he's getting seen first? Do you know, I'm getting just a wee bit angry now. Oh, it's all right. I'm going into the doctor now. Oh, she was great. Really listened to me. Very helpful. Right, I'm off home now. Oh, look, sun's gone down. Now, where do I get a bus home at this time? I think my record for a lead time was 4 hours and 10 minutes.
Hello, my name's Morgan Blizzard and I'm a trainee ophthalmology doctor and I've been a RPIW team member this week. And so this image here on the right of the screen shows our percentage load chart, and you can see a differing length of operator cycle time. So the different members in the sequence of people seeing the patient spend different lengths of time with the patient, and you can see there by the height of those bar charts that currently it reflects unbalanced workload. And if we're to address our sponsor challenge of getting patients through the clinic in under 1 hour 50 minutes, we're going to need to look to rebalance work to aid flow. And so we went into the workplace and observed that at the start of the clinics, often there are patients present in the waiting area and there are doctors present in the clinic rooms, but there appears to be a bottleneck at that middle step where you have your vision assessed. And the people working that day came up with a brilliant idea of if we could encourage doctors to step outside of their traditional just clinic assessment role and temporarily take up that additional role of vision assessment that's normally performed by the nurse, we can get patients at the start of the clinic through and hopefully reduce the lost man hours at the start of the clinic, and that would help to address both of our targets and that the patient would be seen within 15 minutes and hopefully not stay as long. Another measure that we used is pictured on the left hand side, which is a triage slip. Now in a non-urgent eye clinic it's routine practice to prepare your notes in advance, but in the urgent eye clinic that isn't widely performed, and so we wanted to reflect that practice in our urgent work. This slip attached to the front of every patient notes allows the senior clinician to look through the referral and identify in advance patients who might need imaging or tests done so that they're not then being sent for that work later after having their clinical consultation. So it's less number of waits and hopefully it reduces the total lead time through the clinic.
So hello, my name's Anna Scully. I was a team member this week and I'm a foundation trainee in ophthalmology. So another thing we looked at was interruptions due to leaving the room for equipment, and the kind of where people were having to go to find that equipment. It wastes time and it's quite frustrating. So to address that, we used the 5S approach. We had a good sort of the clinic rooms and threw away a lot of out-of-date paperwork and equipment. We kept it simple. So there was a previous PDSA which had come up with a list of equipment that should be in each room as standard. We discussed whether that was appropriate and if anything needed adding, and we now have an up-to-date list. We swept through the clinic and recognised that there are certain bits of kit like a colour vision chart or an indirect ophthalmoscope that isn't used in every consultation but is often used within the acute clinic, and because of kind of availability we can't have one in each room, so we've set up a standardised hub of equipment which is accessible to everyone and stops interruptions as well. Thinking about standardisation, so we now have standard guidance on what should be in each clinic room. We have standard guidance on what should be on the hub. A previous cycle had identified a standard photograph in the room to aid with setup, but the rooms aren't standard themselves. They're different shapes and sizes. So as an improvement this week, we've taken new photographs which reflect how the equipment should be set up in each room, and when we've tested that has helpfully improved equipment setup. That's good.
Hello, my name's Tim Hunter. I'm an RPIW team member and consultant optometrist in the ophthalmology department, and we were looking at the interruptions to flow, particularly for the nursing team carrying out the vision assessments, and if patients are held up at that point, then it delays their travel through to see their doctor. So some of the things we identified in a 1.5 hour period, there were 12 interruptions to the nurse, including taking patients for scans, finding equipment for the doctors, asking advice from the doctor and answering queries. So unsurprisingly, many of the things that we've already looked at, the triage slip helped identify those patients who needed a scan so that they didn't go to the nurse and then go for a scan. They went for a scan first. The standard clinic setup with equipment meant that the doctors weren't having to come out and go, where's my bit of kit? The equipment hub equally addressed that. We also set up a defect tracker, which was a whiteboard where clinicians could write if there were bits of kit missing. That's helped us refine the standard setup for the clinics, and also to write down more complex issues like IT failures, etc., which people can address. And when we measured that this morning, in a 1.5 hour period, there were no interruptions to the nurse.
Hello, my name is Nicola Moss. I'm a project manager and I've been a team member this week. I've also been looking at interruptions, but this time interruptions to medical staff. So our observations suggested that over an hour period of time, the medical staff were interrupted around 14 times. A key reason for this was colleagues asking for advice. So this creates delays and slows down the consultation and has an impact on patient experience, as well as interrupting the senior clinicians as well. So we wanted to think of a way that we could reduce that impact. So we thought about, was there a visual cue that we could use instead? So rather than the doctor going and having to knock on the door to interrupt the senior member of staff for advice, could they maybe write that they needed advice on a whiteboard? So that was the idea we came up with. So we installed a whiteboard outside the consultation rooms, and the theory was if you needed help, that you go and write your initial, and then the senior clinician running clinic at that time would finish with their patient, come out, check the board, so they're not interrupted. They can then go and help you, and so the patients aren't interrupted, and also the clinician who needs help can also sit with the patient and get on with meaningful work rather than standing waiting for advice. So we trialled that on Thursday. The results were mixed, but we're confident because we know that it works in other areas, that a visual tool such as this should work. So the team have committed to looking at other options, and that we want to continue trialling that through the next few weeks. As well as the whiteboard, we've also got the green slip, which I know has been mentioned a few times, but that will also help to hopefully reduce interruptions for clinicians, because there's an element on there which enables the triaging clinician to indicate where they think a patient might be complex, and therefore, particularly in times of high demand, it means that those lesser qualified staff aren't likely to pick out a complex case, which they're almost certainly going to need help for, that they can pick the cases that they're confident in dealing with, and hopefully rattle through them more quickly. Thank you.
This is our target progress report now with the benefit of our RPIW remeasures. And what I'd like to point out to you is the lead time, an improvement from what was 2 hours 43 minutes to 1 hour 25 minutes, a 48% improvement seen here as the green box, green being an improvement in that time. The other quality metrics, metrics 1 and 3, also improved significantly. Quality metric 1 was interruptions in the clinic, which we've heard, and quality metric 3, the time to first being seen. Quality metric 2, we didn't touch on in this RPIW, that is overbooking in the clinic, and that is a subject which we have put on our parking lot.
Hello, my name is Vicky Passara and I'm the process owner for this week, and I'm the senior sister in ophthalmology outpatients. Going forward, I'm going to use our RPIW production board, which is on the wall over there, to support me in delivering the ideas at our newspaper. The pink post-it notes are the areas of work that are still to be started and measured. The orange are for the areas that are already in progress. I'm going to use our morning team huddles in clinic as an opportunity to have a daily focus, and I'm going to use audit day and email as other forms of communicating our ideas and processes to the team.
And so our key learning this week, there's far more learning that's been undertaken this week than what we can put up on the board, but these are the ones that really resonated well with the team. And so, you know, the acute referral service is a multi-professional provided service. And so the value this week of having that multi-professional team approach with our improvement methodology has been really beneficial to be able to put all those viewpoints in. And it's been really recognised in terms of the engagement from the home team as well about bringing their ideas forward. Undertaking improvements in real time, and so often, you know, it can be really easy to go off to your offices and meeting rooms to talk about improvement, but actually taking that out onto the Gemba The team were out on the Gemba Tuesday morning, which is, fantastic, sharing the ideas that they'd already come up with before we even started to think about those ones that we were going to implement. Really going to do that in a week was a comment we heard this morning around, when we presented this on Monday morning, are we really going to do that in a week? And so actually, yes, we are, was the answer. And so the comments as we've gone through the week is that actually we have achieved a huge amount, and that's been reflected both from the team, the away team as you see today, but actually the home team as well. So people arriving to the Gemba to work today that may not have been in this week, really surprised at actually the changes that have been embedded this week in terms of testing, just how many of those they've been able to be part of. Having a good understanding of the previous week's challenges to sustaining concepts. So it's been recognised this week that ideas that we thought may have been embedded through previous RPIWs may not be quite there in terms of sustainability. And so it's been really helpful to discuss those and understand actually where in the point has that slipped, and so where can we take that learning from, so that the board that Vicky talked about, the production board, is really a tool about sustaining how Vicky can implement this into her daily work and how we can start to overcome those challenges about sustaining those concepts. And then lastly, simplifying the process and using our resources differently can both improve patient and staff experience. And so it was recognised that we may want to use our staffing resource slightly differently. That's not a negative consequence, because ultimately it supports the patient journey through that clinic. As ever, our thank yous, and so there's a team member today that's not with us today. So John Buchan, who is a consultant ophthalmologist, was with us on Monday and Tuesday. His experience of the acute referral service in our casualty was really valid, and he articulated that 7 years plus they've been discussing improvements in this area. He had a real concern that we're going to just have the same old conversations, and so I think with the issues that the team picked up on in terms of triage and interruptions, I think they'll resonate really well with work that has already been done previously. Our sponsors for the work, so Karen and Ian, who are here today, thank you for our sponsor challenge. It's created good conversation. And then our home team, as ever, they have really supported and embraced the challenges and the changes. We've had good feedback from them this week, as well as mixed feedback, challenges back to us as a team. Tatum Yip, who has been an advisory member from Healthwatch, and Deborah Ty from Patient Experience. John's input this week has been fantastic, and so Deborah suggested that John take part in this week. And so I think, as you will, I'm sure, agree, his viewpoint of the service has been very valuable. Our catering team, as ever, and then a personal thank you and a team thank you for Celeste, who has been part of our week this week. Celeste has been certifying myself to certify Gerard as team lead. It's been a complex process. However, Celeste has also fully contributed as a team member, a workshop lead, a sensei. We've all learnt something, I think, every single day this week, and so I would like to thank you for your time and energy this week. It's been fabulous. Thank you.
Great. Excellent, excellent. That was great, and as ever we'll hold the questions to the end, but I thought we got a chance, I think Yvette and I came and met, saw how you were doing on Wednesday, but it was obvious then that there's a lot of really good work going on this week, and I won't quickly forget John. As I walk round, people come, people go, the description of the state that we have, the current state, and what you've set out in terms of the improvements in the lead time, I think is terrific. So thank you so much, all of you, for your participation. In recognition of your participation, it's a pleasure to give out these certificates. So Gerard, well done. Anna, well done. Thank you. Vicky, thank you. Tim, Morgan, John, thank you very much. And Nicola.
Thank you.
Great. And I'm sure we've got loads of questions, but if you can, hold on to those when we get to the Q&A. In the meantime, thank you again. Well done. Great. Next up, I think really importantly, we've got our own KPO team who are going to talk about the production board, and I think it's always instructive to make sure that we're kind of holding the mirror up to our own method and applying the same methods we apply across all of the other value streams and improvement work and Kaizen activity with the engine room, if you like, or the custodians of the method. And we couldn't do any of this without the fantastic work that our KPO team do. So it's really good to have an opportunity to hear from you. So over to you.
So, hello, my name is Natasha Bizet. I'm a KPO facilitator and I was the team lead for this event. For our first event, we chose to look at our production boards. They'd been quite a big rock in our KPO shoe for a long time, so it was ideal. When we started asking ourselves why it was such a big issue for us, we had quite a lot of answers. We'd had 11 boards in the last 3 years. As our work changed, the boards changed, and quite often we didn't uptake the PDSA cycles that we should have done. We had quite a lot of issues around duplication and other defects as well. But in the Leeds improvement method, when we talk about waste, we often say that the ideal time to look at waste is when customer or staff satisfaction is low. And as you can see from that sea of red and that big steep slope there, staff satisfaction was not great. So we asked ourselves 3 questions, and the questions really helped focus where our work might improve. So that first question there, how does the weekly setup of the production board make you feel? It wasn't great, and the staff quote, it shouldn't take longer to set up than it actually does to do the huddle. That was a bit powerful. And the second question, how does the huddle often make you feel? The resounding word was frustrated. It really wasn't giving us the information that we needed when we needed it. And how do you feel about the relationship between your leader standard work and the production board? People felt it was non-existent. It wasn't making us do the things that we should be doing every day. So as a visual management tool, it wasn't great. It wasn't 6 feet in 6 seconds. And as a daily management tool, it wasn't ticking and tying back to our people link work. In short, it just really wasn't driving our work forward. So we gave ourselves some targets for the week, and it was really focused around quality. The quality of the information that we were putting up there, was it defect-free? Was it the right information? So we used 5S to help us do that, and then that age-old setup reduction target to really focus in on that thing that was the rock in the staff's shoes.
Hello, my name is Rachel Bickerdike, and I was a process owner for our Kaizen event. So before the Kaizen event, as Natasha said, there were several iterations of the KPO production board. This is the picture of the most recent one before we started our work, which shows 3 weeks and a lot of Kanbans. And that was how we mainly used the production board with Kanbans for each of our meetings and events and sets of training that were colour-coded. So there was a lot of setup involved in putting those in the order for each day. And then we'd have a daily huddle where we'd move them all along so that we were prepared again for the next day. So it was actually taking an hour on our timings to do the setup, and then it wasn't particularly useful to us either. So the sponsor challenge that was set for us by Phil on the first morning of the Kaizen event was to make it something really visible so that anybody who came into the office would know what was our priorities for today's work. This is our value stream map, and you can see a lot of the Kaizen bursts there, which were showing some of the issues that were raised through the process. But we've staged out the steps of the huddle, which has a lead time of 11 minutes 50. So that was the timings we took before. So the median average was 11 minutes per day. So in the Kaizen event, we looked at some ideas to PDSA. One of the things that we did at the start of every huddle was review where people were during the day. So it used to be a board that said St James's or LGI, but again, we didn't find it very useful. So the idea was to really simply just say, today, are you available to help? Yes, no. And that helped us to plan our capacity and any sort of ad hoc work that came in. But we did realise that the locations were valuable to other people in the organisation, so we moved our locations to the door of the KPO office. So that does say if you're out of office or if you're at LGI. And we had a quote just last week from a Lean for Leader who said, I would never have found you without the signs on the doors. So we know that has been working.
Hello, my name's Jimmy. I'm a team member for this Kaizen event, a KPO specialist. So we realised the burden of work for those who've heard the setup of the production board, and we wanted to eliminate that processing waste, the duplication really, as well as the defects that we were finding there. So we agreed to test, basically it's a print out of our Outlook diary with a notes column where you can just annotate things that are coming in terms of actions or queries, and that is 2 pages of printing rather than all that Kanbans and moving stuff along. So really turn the page and you're there with the next thing. So we shaped our huddle as well, so we readjusted our huddle to start with yesterday. So quick look back, did we cover the things, is there anything to carry forward, and then look at today's tasks. So we also realised that our abnormal status section of our production board, it didn't really help us have clear visibility about the priorities, and it also didn't help us track any themes about the things that were going wrong or that we need to pay attention to. So we agreed to change that slightly and trial another one, which is the picture on your right, which has a priority column and then has themes to capture with some tallies underneath, which then feeds our people link board. So the idea is that one drives the other, and we can keep track of, are we addressing the things that keep coming round again, or are they keeping coming round again? We also historically had what we called the long-term planning board, which actually would start with next week, so it wasn't that long-term at all. And that made visually events that we committed to deliver. And it did, through the iterations you've heard, I think, was it 11? I've lost track, but there's quite a lot. So it did connect with the value stream and the education and training elements of our work. But we also realised that it didn't really tie in with our Outlook diary. Now this is a problem because there wasn't one source of the truth. So at a glance the board says this is happening, but then you look in the detail and you go, but is it? So what happens when information's unreliable, you don't trust it, and then you don't update it, and then all of a sudden you don't use it anymore? So this wasn't something that we were using regularly as a team. So our commitment was to standardise it, you'll be pleased to know. Simple things like agreeing the legend and the key, how we're going to represent all the work on there, and then tie that back into our huddles. So not every day, because things don't change usually that often, but weekly on a Friday we now look 3 weeks ahead, what's coming up. We should have a check-in on the roles and responsibilities that have been assigned, and we've also quite fortunate that our wall's magnetic, so we can put some simple visuals on to draw attention to things that might not be quite all set in order. And that's, in test for us, but so far is working well and has certainly highlighted for us where we've got considerable challenges around capacity at the moment. And it's let us see what we've actually committed to, and to be able to start some tough conversations about what we can realistically deliver.
So at the end of the 3-day Kaizen event, we had our newspaper with some actions to complete, and as process owner, I've been responsible for ensuring that some of that happens. And we are actually on our 60-day anniversary, so I'm able to share with you the updated timings from since the event. So at the end of the event, we had a lead time for our daily huddle of 7 minutes and 24 seconds, and at 30 days, we had a modal average of 7 minutes. And at 60 days, we've had a median average of 6 minutes 51. So we've managed to reduce that from nearly 12 minutes. And actually, we're finding it much more useful as well. It's a helpful setup to the day rather than a waste of time, as some people felt that it was before. And also, so we now have no Kanbans that are unuseful to us. And that was one of the defects before, that we had a lot of information that wasn't helping us. But now that's reduced to nothing because we don't have any. And the 5S, so we were at level 1, we were at the very beginning in terms of the shape of that board, and we've sorted and we've gone through. We've moved ourselves up to level 2, but I think important to say that we're not at level 3 yet because we haven't made our team agreement about the production board visible. So I would have liked to have cheated and told you, yeah, we're at 3, but in all honesty, we're not quite there yet, but there's a plan for that to be in place. Great. So what did we learn? I think the main thing for us was about taking some time out to reflect for us as well. As a KPO team, we support a lot of improvement work across the trust, but it's okay to step back and do that for ourselves as well. But we wanted to be really clear about the purpose of what we do. We've been doing Huddle kind of for the sake of it, and that stepping back enabled us to really reflect on the importance of that, and making it useful for all our team members. And it does now link with our People Link board, and some of that connections and alignments really helped us move some of our work forward as well. And we're still in a PDSO cycle, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but the fact that the whole team were involved in that production board and the development and the engagement there has been much better, and there is an improved investment in the daily Huddle and in the production board and the work around it. I did sort of skip over it as well, but in terms of the setup of that board, it used to take one person around an hour to set up all those Kanbans, whereas now the setup reduction, we've reduced that down to less than 4 minutes. It was 1 minute 53 at 30 days, and it was 3 minutes 46 at 60 days, which was a bit of a printer issue, but we're well within the 9-minute target, so that's been really good. Just some thank yous. Thank you to Helen and Phil for sponsoring us and allowing us the time out to reflect on this work. Some of our team members are not able to be here with us today, so thank you to Sophie, who was our coach during the week, and a team member, and Rosie and Lauren, who were team members as well. And Matt's a KPO member of the team who wasn't able to be with us in the week, but kept things moving at home. And some of the exec PAs were able to give us some feedback on that location board as well, so it was really great to have them involved. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and well done, because without a strong, healthy, positive KPO team, we'll struggle with the Leeds improvement method across the whole organisation. So I think it's really vitally important work that you were doing, and it's great to see the positive results from that. So what I'd like to do now is, actually just connected with that, is ask Natasha to come out, because Natasha, and this is long overdue, is going to be formally awarded her certificate for advanced lean training. So Natasha, would you like to come and receive this? Congratulations. Well done. Well done. Great. So we've got some time, which is good for Q&A. So if you think about what we've heard today, in terms of the ophthalmology outpatient value stream, RPIW6 and iCasualty, and you heard the great work that's been going on this week. Also, the Kaizen event that our own KPO team have run, and I'm sure Natasha won't mind if anyone wants to ask about her experience on ALT. So, a whole range of areas for questions, comments. Who'd like to kick off? Ian?
Yeah, I'd like to just give a few sponsor comments for
Yes.
the RPIW to take place in EQ Thorough Clinic Down in Ophthalmology, which has been a fantastic piece of work, and I think first to recognise the sort of the diverse range of people that we've had involved in this. It's been absolutely brilliant to have Nicola, who's come in from a WIAT perspective, both to learn and to contribute to the work in the week, and also for John, who's been our patient voice in this, but also contributing his industry experience as well. He's been a long-serving member of NHS staff actually, and worked in IT and quality improvement projects in the NHS, and that has also been a really valuable contribution, as well as his lived experience of living with a visual impairment. Team has created some brilliant ideas actually. I really like the setup reduction ideas that you've got around the preparation of the patient, the pre-testing or straight to test for patients. That's great. And the baton passing, as it was described by the team in the week, of maximising operator time to try and make sure that we try and align that tap time of each of our agents in the process with the demand that's going through. I thought it was brilliant. I think special mention for Gerard as well, as CD, taking on the team lead role through this has been absolutely fantastic, showing his commitment to and engagement for the use of the improvement method at his level within the organisation is brilliant. and a special thank you as well to Helen and Celeste, who've dealt with the unique challenges actually in this RPIW, with lots of people being quite transient and coming in for days or sessions to contribute their ideas and their energies, but also having to leave, and I think that's been a unique challenge. One thing I picked up on from the presentation is that reflection about being persistent and rigorous with the changes that have been made, and I think really as sponsor for this I want to give a commitment back to the team that where before perhaps in ophthalmology we have allowed things to pass into what we think has become business as usual, and then it may have slipped back out of that, but really that we're going to round regularly and huddle regularly around some of the particulars of this RPIW's work, and make sure that myself and Vicky as the process owner are ensuring that we have rigour behind that and consistency behind delivering that for the long term, because we know, and we've seen just through the 5 days the team have been doing, what an impact some of this can have. So great work, and intend to keep it going.
Great, really well said, Ian. I think, am I right in, I think one of the slides you put up, Gerard, that you said the sponsor challenge was to reduce the lead time by 1 hour and 15, and I think you said
to 1 hour and 15.
to 1 hour and 15. Okay, and you got to 125, so almost, but reduced by a significant amount from, what was it, 2 hours 43. So, I mean, that was in the, and I guess, as you were saying, in the kind of the opportunity for the 30-day, 60-day, 90-day, for you to embed and sustain this is there. And I'm hoping that Gerard's now sort of set the expectation for our CSU clinical directors to follow in your footsteps. So looking forward to seeing that. Who else would like to comment? Yvette?
I've got a message from Jenny.
Right, great.
Who had to sign off because she said she was getting cold. And she was getting some funny looks. So she says, please pass on my congratulations to the team. So many different parts of the method being used. Great to have patient input and the multi-professional team. I was really struck by the bit about we've been talking about this for 7 years and so much progress made in a week. Huge congratulations to Gerard for leading the team. You're a great role model. I look forward to seeing the improvements when I'm back next week and out on the Gemba with one of the sponsors. Great work, everyone. Jenny.
Oh, that's nice. Excellent. Very good. John, then Simon.
What I'd plead for is that people make candid feedback on their experience of working with QI partners. Just to give you an analogy, in the CCG work with a volunteer, after a year we recruited a bunch of people, and when we looked at it, the role wasn't really what we thought it was first going to be. And I think the patient experience people can really only fine-tune what the QI partners are about, and it might be a diverse range of roles, if they're getting good quality, candid feedback from yourselves as to how effective it's been, where it's worked, where it hasn't worked, how it could do better. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'm running a Kaizen process on it.
Yes, very good, John. Thank you. Absolutely right. I would reinforce the point, though, that as we look at the work that's going on in the other 4 trusts nationally that are working as part of this work with our colleagues in Virginia Mason, some of the best value streams when we talk about this are the ones that include patient involvement and perspective, and I think that's something that we found certainly here. So thank you for your participation this week and ongoing, I know. So Simon.
Well, thank you. First, huge congratulations to the team. There's some really fantastic improvements and great work, so thank you very much for that. And in my part-time job as a professional ophthalmology patient, as you know, I'm just wondering about the boundaries of the work. So I know from my own personal experience of, there's long waiting when you're in the emergency eye clinic, but you've got to get in it first. So, and I don't know if it's still the case, but I several times had to go, got there, and I know you've got to go through A&E. So that was adding hours onto, and then you would then wait for the 4 hours in the clinic. So I don't know if there was any thought about, if that's still the case, or if there's any thought about the boundaries and that aspect of how people actually get in.
Right.
Well, the boundaries of our process that we looked at didn't include that.
So we could go back to look at that, but our RPIW, the boundaries were set and quite fixed, and so we didn't look at that specifically.
I suspect though, Simon, that getting this component right and what we learn from this will, I'm sure, feed processes, and particularly as we get more into, and we heard it in the KPO presentation, more into daily management, that is going to, I'm sure, help us with.
Yeah, no, definitely. And the experiences John was talking about that feeling of what's happening, and
yes.
People seem to be going before me and all that really resonates. Very fantastic, really fantastic improvements.
Yeah.
I just give that encouragement to look at the big bits at some points before.
Ian, I'm just going to comment on that. Just say we as sponsors, and so Karen at the back, who was head nursing for outpatients, has been co-sponsor with this. We absolutely debated the boundaries of where we felt we could ask the team to go within the 5 days, and we designated this section pathway. But you're absolutely right. There is something to look at there, and it just takes that setup reduction journey a little bit further, actually, because the way we set up the team starts before even the patient comes through the front door, and it is about how A&E and PCAL and self-presentations are being managed. So there is a step even before this bit of work that we do need to look at.
Just, as people know, that with certain conditions, the consultant will say to you, if you get this happening, come back immediately. So the process of coming back immediately is not as straightforward as perhaps it seems to be.
Claire?
Interested about the 5S in particular. So whether or not it felt cathartic doing that, but also if you were surprised by what you found in terms of what you had to dispose of, what you had actually had available to you, and whether or not you could see an opportunity to use that same method somewhere else within the workplace.
Yes, Morgan helped me a lot because he's more experienced and knows exactly what we need in clinic and don't need. But I think we found stacks of paperwork that for GPs that haven't been accepted for years, like before I qualified. So it was satisfying, and it also meant we sorted things out. So one of the big things we always are looking for is mirror lenses, but by the end of the week we had 4 in rapid assessment clinic, whereas last week there was 1, but I think they were probably just hidden away, so that was good. And I think probably the whole clinic area was very clean. But that time and resources that go into that, and having someone who knows what is appropriate to keep and change.
I'm likened it to being a child and finally having a tidy bedroom.
Keep it. Very good. Yes. Excellent. Okay. I think you got in there first, Helen. So
I was a sponsor for the Kaizen event for the KPO team, and it's just a comment to say, well done to the team. It was a really difficult time to, put that mirror up and look internally at our own processes, and just the courage that the team took to, take those steps about actually we're going to do this and we're going to do it properly. So well done to the team. Rachel is quite new to our team, and so actually to take on the role of process owner so early. And Natasha was facilitated to take on that team lead role with the improvement team. I've got to take my hat off to you for stepping up to the plate and delivering the work actually in a really short space of time in terms of data collection. And as a customer of the board, loving the fact it only takes now 6 minutes of the day, and knowing that actually a member of the team isn't standing there for an hour every week putting up Kanbans that just are not going to help us, is actually, it's nice to know as a leader in the team, but actually for the rest of the team, that we are able to spend our time elsewhere doing more valuable activities. So good luck. The support is always there, and so I'm really looking forward to the next 30 days as we continually embed that practice. So.
Great, thanks, Helen. Phil?
Well, Helen and I didn't plan to make sure somebody said that, but that is what I was going to say.
Thanks, Helen. Very good. Is that?
well, I would echo about the KPO team, and I think it was brilliant, a great piece of work to do, and really brave to show the staff morale figures at the beginning. So look forward to hoping to see them shift as you go on with this work. And then my other question, it probably applies to both teams, but I was particularly going to ask the RPIW team about when you found things that you thought were sorted and actually they weren't being reliably carried out. Have you been able to understand some of the reasons why? Because I think if we go back to every RPIW, we will find, and we actually do find, the same thing. So I wondered about that.
I think the feedback we got was that there was a kind of initial buy-in and then it drifted, I think is the nicest way to put it. And then things kind of stopped being followed up and produced, and people kind of began to just not do it anymore, and it kind of drifted back to its original kind of set in stone pathway.
Yes.
And I think that was very much what Helen was saying about sustainability. I think the big problem with all of this is that there's this burst of energy, there's a week of people throwing themselves at it, and then it's whether or not you can sustain that through the kind of grind of the day, and embedding it into kind of a daily process and a continual reinforcement of it, I think is the difficult task.
Tim, that really strikes a chord with me in terms of, I'm reading a book at the moment called Beyond Heroes, which is by a lady called Kim Barras, who worked in an organisation called Feeder Care in the States, and it describes a moment in their journey 5-6 years on, after doing lots of value streams and so on, where they felt they got to a point where there was some sort of erosion of that, and they weren't they sort of hit a barrier. And it takes us back to the work that we started just before Christmas on daily management, and I think that's where we will have to focus to give ourselves, so it becomes a habit, it becomes what we do every day. And I think the great work that has gone on across the Trust in the Leeds Improvement Method, I think we're on that threshold now of asking ourselves that question. So I think it's a really important point to make, but I think we're thoughtful about that, and hopefully we'll have some positive approaches to that.
One of the things, the discussions that we had at the midweek report out was around rounding, because this issue came up midweek. And I think, a reflection personally, and I think from our value stream actually, would be that we're regularly on the Gemba, but are we actively rounding? Are we actually actively using the respectful behaviour, picking up the standard work agreement and saying, do you mind if I just spend 5 minutes just having a look? It's not because I want to check up on you, it's I want to see whether we've managed to sustain the work. And we haven't really been doing that intentional rounding. We've been more politely going down and just seeing people, saying hello and asking how things are, but actually that is another part of the method. Probably something as a value stream team we're not doing, so that's something that we need to change after this.
Key point in.
To pick up on that, one of the ways to try to improve that is to have some standard work and standard process on that. And on the board that you see, we have achieved at least the embryonic standard process, standard work within the RPIW, which often we don't get to in an RPIW. So we've done pretty well with that. Clearly that needs to progress over the next 30, 60, 90 days, but we do have some standard work on that.
That's great. Excellent. Okay, I'll kind of draw a line. That's been fantastic report out, and really good discussion as well. So thank you very much. Celeste.
Do you mind if I just...
Please.
Helen had asked me to, so I'm just going to be an American. Come on up. And the guys told me somewhere around here because I tend to wander. And so, first of all, congratulations to the RPIW team, Gerard, as well as Helen, but all of you, thank you for letting me interlope. I was maybe a little less of a coach and a little bit more of a instigator, perhaps, because I was beating that standard work drum. And thank you for testing the RPIW, Vicky. Production board, to your point, Julian, around the daily management and the December linkages, one of the terms that came up in continuous flow module was velocity. And I pointed out that in the original slides, velocity is italicized, and it wasn't in the limb slides. And I said, you know, there's a reason for that. There's always a why. There's always a purpose, most often, behind, hopefully, what we do at Virginia Mason. And because velocity means more than just going faster. And it was actually, I'll embarrass Morgan a little bit, he had such a simple and elegant definition that I'm taking away with me, is that it is about going faster, but it's also about direction. Because you can go faster, but if you're not going in the right direction, then you might not get where you want to go. And so what we hope is that, again, I think language is really important, and we talk about 30, 60, 90-day remeasures. I'm going to encourage you to stop using that language, and it is when you turn your remeasures in. Your remeasures start next week. So faster, because you got a production board where every day you pick a post-it, a sticky note. Not everything. We're not going to test everything every day. How do we weave this? And again, Vicki, I love the daily focus on improvement. And this young lady hasn't even been through Lean for Leaders. So how are we going to focus on weaving the successful implementation into the first 30 days, which is really the golden time. If we just wait to remeasure and retest for 30 days, we've missed that golden opportunity. So that would be my challenge to the organization, is get your standard work, a first draft, as Gerard talked about, in your RPIWs, get them out on Tuesday morning, and some technique to get improvement and the PDSA process embedded into that daily work.
Yeah.
So,
great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Celeste. As ever, really good challenge and encouragement. So we'll draw it to a close there. Thanks very much for coming, everyone, and really well done, all of you who participated in today's report out. I'm really looking forward to the next kind of sequence of milestones to hear from teams in terms of how we're doing. So thanks again. See you next time.
I think that's